Welcome to the Light and Shadow podcast. I am Grey, quantum informed spiritual mentor, founder of the Grey Ethereus Academy, and creator of the Alchemical Pattern-to-Healing Framework. I work at the threshold where insight alone stops working and real transformation begins. This is a space for the spiritually aware who are ready to go deeper than healing has taken them. Today's conversation is about interconnection, but not as a metaphor, as the actual structure of reality. We're talking about what it means to live inside a web where every jewel reflects every other jewel, where your blind spots matter more than your strength, and where understanding your personality is just the beginning of freedom from it. My guest is Indra Rinzler, author of the award-winning book INDRA'S, A Seeker's Guide to the Human Experience. Indra has spent over 50 years on the spiritual path, 20 years in a spiritual community studying with Paramahansa Yogananda. I hope I pronounced it correctly.
You're very good.
Studying with decades, traveling the world, building businesses, and developing a unique synthesis of Vedic astrology, the Enneagram, and what he calls the Wheel of Totality. His work reveals the mechanical nature of personality and the blind spots that keep us trapped in old patterns. What I appreciate about Indra's approach is that he refuses to separate spiritual knowledge from lived experience. He's not interested in collecting insights. He's interested in what actual changes when we see clearly. And he has built a body of work that helps people locate themselves within the larger web of existence. Not to lose themselves in it, but to find freedom through understanding how it all connects. Before we start, I want to say this. Some of you listening may be deeply versed in spiritual systems. Some of you may be skeptical about astrology or personality typologies. So some of you may be at a turning point and unsure of what to do next. All of those positions are welcome here. This conversation isn't about proving systems work. It is about what happens when we see the patterns we have been living unconsciously and what becomes possible when we stop identifying with them. Indra, welcome to the Light and Shadow.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that introduction. Wow.
Indra, you have spent over 50 years on the spiritual path. Looking back, what actually changed in you, not just what you learned?
Well, I would probably more peace inside, quieter. I think less affected by stories and outside events. More content within more contention, more contented within myself.
So it's not the accumulation of knowledge, it is the dissolution of the one who thought they needed to know. That's a very different process here. And many people collect spiritual knowledge. But what is the difference between learning and actually awakening?
Well, that's a deep question. Well, I think the knowledge doesn't necessarily get you anywhere. I think it's what you do with knowledge, and I don't think knowledge is the goal either. So I think it's the experience. So what is it's not the destination, it's the journey. I think this is the same.
Correct.
The same idea here is to be. It would be wonderful to make the mate perfect, but it would be even better to just accept the mate as they are. That's the way to find that's the true solution, because the perfect mate will never be achieved, and the acceptance of what is perfect, and doesn't need anything else.
That's beautiful. Correct. I agree, actually. And learning is additive. Awakening is subtractive. One builds a self, the other dismantles it, right? And you say Indra's net is not just a
Yes.
concept, but how life actually functions. So, what does
Yes.
that mean in practical, lived terms?
Uh, well, it's so interesting that you picked that up because if I could just give you a little bit of story where that line came from, is that
Yes, please.
I had a teacher for 25 years who actually just passed a year ago, left her
Mm-hmm.
body about a year ago, and what during COVID was having weekly meetings, which I didn't go to very often, but I was about to see her again, and I thought, well, let me listen, and so I got in there, and I think I was just a little bit late. It had already started, and she said, and there was a question, and I didn't ever heard the question, and the response to the question was her talking about Indra's net, which I will explain it in a minute. And
Yeah.
she said this line. She said this line that it's not a philosophy.
Wow.
It's the way we live. And so I could only hope to understand what she meant by it, because it was not actually, I was totally amazed because I hadn't
Yeah.
heard her in, let's say, 2 years. And when the first, she didn't know I was working on the book. And at the
Mm-hmm.
time, the name of the book being Indra's Net was fairly new. Not that Indra's Net was new to me, but it
Mm-hmm.
was just I just like within 90 seconds I got this line, and I was just rather amazed that the way divinity, the way spirit gave me this line and gave me this experience. And so Indra's Net is a Buddhist concept. It's also in Hinduism. It's 1500, 2000 years old, that the god Indra that I am
Wow.
named for, um,
Mm-hmm.
had the spiritual name almost 30 years, given
Mm-hmm.
to me by a different teacher, who and so Indra was the king of the gods, and Indra had a net, and that net covered the entire universe, and
Oh,
and
wow.
that net contained jewels, and those were faceted jewels, and those faceted jewels reflected every other faceted jewel, and so it's an image of the interconnectedness of life, and that every part of our life is connected, even if we don't think it's connected. That's why we learn from our failures. Is that
Wow.
they are
Yeah.
part of our they are part of bringing us to the light, even though it
Mm-hmm.
seems counterintuitive, that it seems like it's the wrong direction. And so I think she's saying that this is the way life works, is that everything is interconnected, and realizing that everything is interconnected, it goes a
100%.
it goes a long way to our letting go of our own need for control, our own controlling, or thinking that we are not. It's the old poster that I like to say people are used to. It's the old poster with the two footprints, and the person saying, "Where were you, God?" And God says, "Well, I was carrying you." It's like we're
Wow.
always
Yeah, that's
supported.
deep. I love that.
Yeah, so it's like it's everything is connected, and life and death are one. Birth and death are the
Yeah,
same.
absolutely.
Thus
Yeah,
ended and thus began. It's the same. It's the same side of the same coin, even though
that is
it may
correct.
seem like it's the other side. So,
I love that. I love that. That is very deep. And it's not just poetry, it is actually the recognition that there is no isolated action and no isolated consequence. Everything you do ripples. Everything. So, if everything is interconnected, right, where does individual identity and responsibility begin, Indra?
boy, we're gonna just have deep question after deep question.
Yeah, I mean, if you were not that deep, I wouldn't have asked those questions, Indra.
Okay, really good. Okay, so So
Go full speed.
individual responsibility. So we have our own manifestation, which is really a beautiful. While we are connected to God, while we are God,
Mm-hmm.
we have this ability to have a free will, even if there's not free and there's not much will. We still have our own, I can decide what I want for breakfast. Even if it's programmed, I can still decide when and what I'm going to have for breakfast. So we have this sense of freedom within us, which is, which can be, which the ego can get a hold of, and actually show that we don't have a freedom because we are programmed to act in certain conditioned ways, and that becomes our reality, and we lose our sense of freedom. And so I think the sense of freedom becomes the realization of the ability to find joy and happiness in every situation, is to feel content within
Mm-hmm.
ourselves, that whether we get what we want or get what we don't, or don't get what we want, that we still have the choice
Yeah.
to be free and to be happy. That's the individual. I forget what your question. The individual responsibility. That's the responsibility towards our
Yes.
own happiness
And
and
the
our own sense of
identity.
freedom.
Yeah.
Yeah, our own identity.
Right. So
Yes,
it becomes liberating, right? And
absolutely.
but that's the paradox. You're not separate, right? But you still act. You're not independent, but you're still responsible. So the web doesn't erase agency. It reveals its context.
Well, eventually it does, but it takes a while for people for individuals to get to that place. That's the journey.
Yeah.
Is to let go of our personal preferences, and to let go of the need to be in control, and to let go of the need for freedom. When we let go of the need for
Hmm.
freedom, then we have freedom. It's the need for freedom
Correct.
that is that takes the freedom away.
It's not about the need for freedom, or it's the need itself for anything else, whether if it's money, whether if it's love, whether if it's the freedom, anything that you're trying to do. As long as there's attachment to needs, you're not free. And you work with the Enneagram and Vedic astrology together.
Yes.
What do those systems reveal about the patterns we think are us, but actually are not?
Well, they incredibly reveal them. The Enneagram of Personality, 9 personality types. One is core to our one is our core story, and by learning our personal
Mm-hmm.
triggers, we can get freedom from those personal triggers. In other words, that we can see through the story, and I say that we may see it a week later, then we see it a day later, then we see it an hour later, then we see it 5 minutes later, and then we can feel it in the moment. And so that's the work that we have to do, is to become more aware of it, and to see how it plays out, and how tight we are with the unfolding of the when we're kids, when we're young children, we need to be protected, and we need strategies. But the strategies that, when I have a client in the 40s and 50s, these strategies don't are not particularly helpful anymore, and in fact they were a barrier to the
Mm-hmm.
sense of freedom, to the sense of independence, to the sense of living in
Right.
the moment, with being accepting
Mm-hmm.
of what is, and what appears, rather than judging and going into a litany of our conditioned behavior. Astrology shows us the strength and weaknesses of our chart. It shows us the pitfalls. It shows us our strength, and it's not the stars incline; they don't compel. We have not that the planet has a problem, but we can have weak planets, which means that it's not that those particular areas, whether it's communication with Mercury or ability to expand with Jupiter or ability to be focused with Saturn. It's not that the planet has a problem, but if the planet is weak in our system, it creates a feeling of deficiency that we overcome with our conditioned behavior, our insecurities, our diminishing ourselves, our ego centric behavior. All of these things come out of the feeling of deficiencies, and merely by, as I say in the book, merely by recognizing the patterning, we already can begin to heal it. That by recognizing what is going on and recognizing our reaction to this behavior, it gives us the ability to be able to see through those behaviors and to let them go. And while we can immediately see the clarity that we hope to live in, free from the story, the reality of it is that it takes a hell of a long time in order to be able to live that in total freedom from those behaviors. That it's that it could be a day, but it's most likely a couple of decades to really let go, to see all the clarity of them, to completely be free of needs and feelings of responsibilities and acting from purity is really a lifetime achievement award. It is because I don't want to be this is actually good news, not bad news, but the idea is that we can make progress on a daily basis, and we can have incredible progress in a month and a week from learning these truths. But the higher self holds out to us an incredibly high standard, and that high standard takes a very long time to achieve.
And I think with that combination of the Vedic astrology and the Enneagram, it seems like the personality is mechanical and it's a set of predictable responses. And most people spend their whole lives defending and reinforcing those patterns without ever seeing them clearly. You can see them clearly by following or by having someone professional in this Vedic astrology and the Enneagram to show them exactly where those patterns are.
Yes, and even even seeing them, that people have to be. I like to say that people come to me at a particular time. They have to be incredibly open. They have to be really kind of frustrated that they're really actually able to see, because at 20 years old, if I'd have been shown, I probably wouldn't have listened an iota, and maybe 30 and 40 also. People, God and spirit and friends and mentors were trying to tell us the whole time, and we didn't hear it. Let's get honest here, Grey. That it's that it only gets let in a little bit at a time, because we are the way that we are, because we can't handle too much bad news at one moment, that we get too discouraged on ourselves. We need to be built up a bit, because when we get too defeated, then we whether it's depressed or suicidal or just angry all the time.
They just need to be prepared mentally, emotionally, spiritually for such, accepting what is coming, right? From the other side, like, hey, this is your chart, and this is your weaknesses, this is your challenges. Hey, accept it. Otherwise, it's not for the weak.
Well, it reminds me a little bit of the 20-year overnight success, that it's like you finally hear it,
Yeah,
but it's not that it was the first time you've been told. It's just that you couldn't hear it before, and that's okay. That's just,
right.
you hear what you hear and you're ready for what you're ready. But by the time people come to a session with me, I'm really amazed that they're really open and they're really uh earnest in their attempt to really to want to hear what comes through. It's not what I'm saying; it's what comes through. It's not really from me;
Exactly.
it's through me.
Yeah.
And I know that I'm sure I was arrogant enough to not be able to hear and to not be able to see. I'm sure I was annoying at 22 is at 62, but I wasn't aware at 22 how annoying I was. That's the difference.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it's why it's called the wisdom, right? It's just with the years. Same as wine, when you just it's a new, you don't get the really taste of it and the benefit of it until it's aged enough.
I want to say that is the process.
Yeah.
Is that it's okay at 22 that you only get a little bit of it. That's okay. You're on the path. I like to say
Yeah.
people say you've left the path, and I say, well, what's the other side? I don't see the other side. I think the two sides are that you're on the path and you don't know you're on the path. But in both cases you're on the
Yeah.
path. The only difference is whether you're aware of it or not.
Yeah, I love this analogy. I love that. I love that. Like whether you're aware of it, you're on the path or not, well, it's totally a subjective matter. So
Yes,
Indra,
it
at what
doesn't
point?
it doesn't really matter, whether you're aware of it or not. And
You're already on it.
it's you're already on it, and you mentioned separation before. The idea is that you can
Mhm.
only feel separate, but you can't be separate. And so it's only
Right.
you're separating yourself from something that is from a spirit that is always there. The guidance and the intuition is always there, but we separate ourselves from that reality by mental story, so that we can't hear we block the intuition, and we block the feelings of connectedness, and then we feel separate, but it is not being separate. It is not possible to be separate.
We're all interconnected. It's just the awareness and the feeling of it. But eventually, whether you like it or not, you are interconnected,
That's
right?
that. Yes, that's there. There we go, full circle.
Yeah. So at what point does understanding your personality stop being helpful and start becoming another identity trap?
Well, that can happen at any time, but
Yeah.
you have to make some progress within the identity. There isn't any other way. That you have to make that progress and want to get rid of the identity, but you have to do it within the identity, and that's okay.
Wow.
Then the identity, then you get a freedom from identity. This is the ayahuasca moment, or the sunset moment, or the aha moment, however they
The
come,
meditation
reading a book,
moment.
or
Yeah.
riding
Yeah.
the subway. It doesn't matter. It just comes. The aha moment comes, and then you get some distance, and then
Just,
you get that distance is they call that awakening, but I like to refer to that more as pre-awakening. Awakening
mhm.
is another 15 or 20 years of experience
Yes.
to hone in
Yes.
on leaving the identity really completely, or even more so leaving the identity, and even
Mhm.
more is just realizing, having the sensitivity to realize when you're coming from identity, and when you're free of identity, and this nuance is a long process, and it's so beautiful, and you get to a place where the joy, you don't have to the joy doesn't come from the no identity. The joy comes from the realization of the possibility of no identity. That can be
Right.
enough.
So it's the solution of the ego in one way here.
Yes, the dissolution of the ego creates creates a space for the sense of total joy and freedom. But we don't have to solution the ego in order to have that freedom. That freedom and that joy is available here in each moment, and we can be in story, we can be stuck in traffic, we can be with loud music, we can be all of the things we hate. We can even be eating gluten, and we can find we can have a smile to ourselves to know
joy moments, right?
that this is all a
Right,
dream. This is all a goddamn
yeah,
dream, and I don't have to be part of it.
right. That's critical. You can turn self-knowledge into another performance, another story about who you are. The map is useful until you mistake it for the territory.
That's right. The map is useful, and it can still be useful at different times and at different places, and it's part of the process. And so I don't want to really negate any part of the process. And who am I to say that life should be different and that my life should be different? You know,
Yeah.
I had my wife was teasing me yesterday. Things aren't going well. My word program isn't working particularly well. And I was working on her computer to try to get my Word file working and working on Word, and it wasn't working particularly well. And I just got back from India and I got a new phone, and my WhatsApp was going through problems too. So I'm in this Mercury retrograde kind of an energy, and I just I just laugh at it and just play along, and rather than take it seriously, do the best I can.
It's very important how you look at things and how you take them. You can definitely get angry, and you can change your perspective and just laugh about it. And at the end of the day, not gonna change anything external, but it's gonna change inside of you.
Yes, that's it. And the project that I was working on, which was a long file, but the reality of it is that I was willing to give up the project, and I was willing to, to never use Word again. If that's what the spirit wants of me, that's okay. I'm willing to give it up. But I wasn't sure that was the particular goal. But I had to be very creative in terms of what I ended up doing was I turned one of these Word files that I needed to open but couldn't open into a PDF file, and there I could open it and I could access the information in it.
You eventually found a solution for it.
I found some solutions and some workarounds. I told her I was back in the Stone Age here, the way I was working with. But the point of this is to go through a real world example here for the listeners, to go through a real world example of how you have to deal with these things, and it's okay. There's always workarounds, and there's always other ways to do it.
Indra, you speak about mechanical personality patterns. How can someone recognize when they are acting consciously versus unconsciously?
Oh, that's a great question. I think that the experience is the only way to know that. It just takes a while for us to realize all of the tricks that we play, and to stay and to learn to be present in the moment. We can be present a week later, then a day later, then an hour later, then 5 minutes later, and then in the moment we learn to become present. And this is just the way that it is. It's the work. It isn't to make money, and it's wonderful to feed our family, and it's wonderful to have kids. But the personal why we're here is to do this work, is to become aware of our patterning and our to stay present to our I'm just reminded that we're so clear about other people's stories. We're so clear about other people's actions and reasons. We have to learn to be that clear about ourselves, and it's not very easy. While we're the center of attention, it's really hard to look at our own um, behavior sometimes, and to see ourselves in the in a true mirror. The is it the Sleeping Beauty, the mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the most beautiful one of all?
Mm,
Yeah, well, it's you, dear, every time, but it's not you.
yeah,
But we have to
yeah.
find that true mirror
I
that's going to
I
tell us the
always
truth.
true, true. I always say you need to ask yourself, did you choose or did the pattern choose for you? Was there space between the trigger and the response, or was it automatic? Also, this gives you a clues because again, you need to have a little bit of awareness besides your experience. Now, Indra, is it true freedom about changing who we are or seeing clearly who we are?
Is that true freedom?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think to seeing who we are,
Uh,
there's so many levels of to seeing who we are. There's no, there's
mm,
always levels of limitation. The freedom to let go of the life. That's one of the last ones to
mm,
go. I was amazed. One time I saw YouTube videos of a Mahasamadhi, of a man walking in, laying down, and leaving his body with a monk, in I don't know whether
mm,
it was Nepal or Bhutan or where it was, I forget, but there were 40 or 50 people cheering him on in their own way. And boy, that was a big step that he laid down. In about a minute or two, he was there, and then he was gone. The body went limp, and he just left his body,
mm.
Mahasamadhi, the great leaving of the body. And there's so many levels of freedom. The freedoms of level of freedom of level of what our mate says, and freedom of level freedom from what the boss says, and freedom what the kids say, and then there's a freedom to be needed, and freedom from being needed, and freedom
Mm-hmm.
from having to breathe, and freedom from
Right.
having to have our garden the way we want it,
So,
and being in nature, all of
yeah, so
these,
basically, but but
it just
but
keeps
these
going.
also, yeah, but also it just means seeing it clearly. That's also true freedom because when you see the pattern completely without any type of resistance, without any type of neediness, it loses its grip. The seeing itself is the freedom.
Yes, and the when you say true freedom, the true freedom, I don't know that I have true freedom. I have freedom. But am I still attached? Yes, I'm still attached. I'm still eating,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
and I'm
Yeah.
still sleeping. So there still is some attachment to the body and the body's needs. And so I'm going to call it true freedom in the sense that I feel a sense of freedom in the moment. But true freedom
Mm-hmm.
means the bigger freedom to really let go of bigger and bigger questions.
Indra, your wheel of totality focuses on blind spots, the
Yes,
empty houses in the natal chart. Why
right.
are the things we do not see often more important than what we do see?
Well, I mean, I think that they become important. We don't see our blind spots until 50, I believe. I've worked this with
Mm,
hundreds of clients. In 20s and 30s, we're mostly building up ego and identity. We need to know who we are, and we need to feel security. But after 50, it changes. My eldest daughter just is 51. Many of the problems that had disappeared, that were before, I was so happy for her now at 51. She has the freedom that at 50 now we can begin to look at our deficiencies. They aren't
mm,
they become the work that what people say about us, and what we can see. But then we start working on stuff that we can't see, and these are the deficiencies. And I found through the help of spirit, it wasn't my conscious doing, that empty houses, that each house contains awareness in astrology, and that if a house
mm,
is empty of planets, then and I work this that includes that doesn't include outer planets, Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus. That's the way that I work it with being a Vedic astrologer, and I just mention that. I don't want to go into it any deeper. But if the planet is empty
Yes.
of the inner house of the inner planets, then I find that the awareness in that house is a blind spot, and it's something that we don't start working on until we're 50. And even after 50, it is not something we get right away, because we just don't have that gene in our makeup in this body. We have it. The spirit has it. The higher self has it. But in the personality, we don't have an ability. There are concepts that are very hard for us to understand, and that is these blind spots. And would you like me to go around the wheel and tell you what they are?
Yes, please.
Okay, so the first house, so this is the Wheel of Totality. This is the awareness of the first house is the ability to discover who we really are. Okay, who we really are is essence. But if you don't have a planet there, then people's abilities to know who they are, to understand their identity, is very difficult. That there are people who are very clear on who they are, and they know in high school that they want to be a doctor. And then there are people who don't know who they are, and they're 60 years old and not sure what they want to do in their life and who they are. That is usually an empty first house, that they have problems discovering who they really are. The second house is duality. And that means that if they have a planet there, they can live in gray. But if they don't have a planet there, then they tend to either live in black or white, that things either are or aren't. But the reality of it is that things are in between, that we can love somebody, but we cannot like what they do. That's gray. And they have an inability. They tend to live in black and white tends to be very judgmental, because things either are or aren't, but things actually aren't either are or aren't. They're actually in between, that we can be hungry but not meal hungry, that we can be tired but not sleepy tired. The third house is mind, and mind has to do with the ability to have confidence. When we have confidence, then we have the ability to let go the story of the mind, because we have planets there. But if we don't have planets in the third house, then we tend to get stuck in the stories of the mind and have trouble letting go of the stories of the mind. The fourth house is home. Is heart. And home it's also home, and home can be where we live, but home is also our groundedness in our own being. And so when we have planets in the fourth house, then we tend to be grounded in our own being. We can open our heart. But if we don't have planets, then we tend not to be grounded in ourselves, and we have trouble opening our hearts, which means that we have trouble with being vulnerable, and we have trouble with being self-compassion. That we may have compassion for every animal alive or dead, and we have compassion for everybody, but we have trouble having compassion for ourselves because we're not grounded enough in ourselves. That's the fourth house. The fifth house is God. We call that, it starts by bowing down to a man on the throne, a very paternalistic view of religion. It becomes the realization of a cosmic intelligence. And when we realize that there is a cosmic intelligence that is guiding our life and all of life, then we can accept and trust what is. If we don't have a planet in 5, then we have trouble trusting and accepting what is. The sixth house is practice. Practice starts as staring at a candle or doing yoga or meditation. It becomes living 24/7 in undisturbed consciousness. That's when we're never disturbed. The reality is to learn that on the mat and off the mat have to be the same. The practice is the uphills of life, the troubles of life, and these lessons teach us to be able to take our lessons and to integrate them in all part of our life, not just in while we're with spiritual people, or while we're doing yoga, or while we're at the sunset, or while we're on ayahuasca. We have to learn to be able to see the truth every minute of the day. That's the practice. 6th house, 7th house, seeing through conditioning. If people don't have a planet in the 7th house, then they get very stuck in the ideas of conditioning. They wake up at 40 and realize that they never wanted to be a doctor, and that they can actually date it back to a time at 22 when they put the white coat on and realized that they only wanted their parents' love, who was also a doctor, and that now they're stuck being the doctor for their life because that's what they said that they had wanted.
This is
So
beautiful,
that is
actually.
that's the 7th house is getting stuck in both family and society's conditioned ideas, and you can't heal conditioned ideas because you don't actually have the problem. What the problem is that you buy into a story that isn't yours. That's a different problem. That's 7th house. 8th house we've already talked about is the no separation. If you don't have a planet in the 8th house, then you have trouble with separation. And people with the empty 8th house will report loneliness. People with planets in the 8th house don't usually use the word loneliness. They may feel lonely at times, but not this overpowering loneliness. They feel connected even when there's even when they're separate from mates or separate from their from people, that they don't feel a separation from people or experiences. People without a planet in the 8th house can often slip into a depression and disappointments because they feel separate from their experiences and from people. 9th house is emptiness. We can feel empty in nature, but if we don't have a planet there, by the time we get back to the car, then that emptiness is gone, and all we're thinking about is what to get at the grocery store and what to make for dinner. Emptiness is something that it's the opposite of the mental of the busy mind. Is the busy body, not the busy body of worrying about everybody else's but a body that doesn't have stillness in it. That emptiness is the same as silence, but it's not no noise, it's no story. So we call this stillness in the body. People that don't have a planet here have trouble having stillness in their body. Even though they can have it in the mind or not have it in the mind, they can have a lack of stillness. The 10th house is love. Love in 20s and 30s is mostly about having needs met. It's conditioned love. Unconditioned love is an attitude. It doesn't need an object. You just wake up loving. You just wake up appreciating. Gratitude is love, and it's seamless when you have a planet in the 10th house, that you have feelings of love and connection to everything. There is not a separation. It is not about something that we get from a people or a person. The 11th house is realization. This is the great ability to accept and trust what is, to realize that divinity is in charge of everything, that I'm not really in charge of anything, that there is no such thing as control. There's only the feeling of control, and that life happens through me, not from me. That I am not. That the book is not from me. It's through me. That it's the divinity's book. It's not my book. And the 12th house is transcendence, which is immediate change, and impermanence, which is everything changes. It's the ability to accept change. If people don't have a planet in 12, then they don't do well with changes in life. If they have a planet in 12, then the changes in life, they are seen for what they are, is that everything in life changes, that this is the nature of life. The only permanent is change. So those are the 12 houses, the Wheel of Totality. And I have worked this with, as I said, hundreds of people. It is an incredibly deep reading and has insight that I would never get to any other way than through this particular wheel that came to me from Spirit, and that I am appreciative of every day for what it
I
what it
love it so
shares
much.
and what it shows.
Yes,
Did you recognize
absolutely, and I
something for
love it.
yourself? Did you recognize some for
I did,
yourself?
actually. I did. I do have a few blind spots, yes, or empty houses.
Okay, and
Um,
so the work on them is again just the realization is to it's
yeah,
because
it's the
they're heady,
awareness.
the awareness, because they're heady concepts. It's like duality. It's kind of a heady concept. You either kind of get it or you don't. And separation, if you
Yes.
don't have a planet there, then separation can be a concept that's really hard to understand. Realization can be a concept that's hard to understand. Divinity, being in charge of
Totally.
everything, can be a concept that's very hard to
Yeah.
understand. And it's because you, as I say, in a sense, you don't have the gene, and so you have to really work on. You have to work from the emptiness, because you can't get it from inside. You have to intuit. You have to get big enough in order to accept the understanding of it, and the understanding of it is going to be intellectualized for a while, and then
Yeah.
eventually it may
Yeah.
get to a place where it's something that you can actually feel. But I've been working on them. I've been aware of this about 12 years, and I'm, was in my 60s and 70s, working on them, and they come, but they're not easy, and they're
No,
uh,
no. And kudos to you for doing that, because the first house that is empty, that that for a lot of people, that they can stay all their life without knowing really what they want. They don't change, nothing is there, it's just the same, and they just come to life and they leave without really any progress, without any really change, without any goal or any ambition in their life. And that totally makes sense with that empty house in the first house. That whatever you described, it just makes sense. It just
discovering who
makes
you
sense.
really are. Yeah, absolutely, and I
Yeah.
and I think knowing that you're not good at it. I mean, people know that they don't know themselves well. I mean, when I find from my clients that isn't so
Uh-huh.
unusual, but then we can tell them that there's reasons why they do that, and then I can, with the Enneagram and with the astrology and then with the Wheel of Totality, that I can then
Hmm.
explain to them who they are, for them to then get the picture. And once they get the picture, then it's a little bit like I give them the frame, and then they can fill in the
Yes, like
picture
an aha
better.
moment for them. Yeah.
It's not
It's
that
a
they don't.
realization.
Yeah, I mean, maybe when they're 22 they don't have a clue, but when I'm talking late 30s, 40s, and 50s and 60s, people understand. If I
Hmm.
say that who
Yeah.
you are, let's just say in the Enneagram that you accommodate other people, you're a peacemaker. Well, once I describe
Hmm.
that personality style, that's the 9 in the Enneagram of Personality. Well, they relate to it. They say, yes, I've always been that way. And I say, well, that's who you are. That's your personality. That's the identity that you have to come into. It's not that it's a
Yeah.
Rolodex of possibilities before that, that they're aware that is,
Yeah.
because they're old enough to have realized that is part of what is manifested for them, but they don't know that is really the solid answer. But when you say that's the one that you
Right.
are,
Right.
then they can really make progress from that, because they can really the phrase hunker down. They can really relate to that particular as their nature, and then realize that's really the story that they have to work on, and growth will come from that.
Right. So to sum them up for the listeners or the viewers, the empty houses are the blind spots that run us without our knowing. They are the source of our most persistent suffering. Indra, what is the most common form of self-deception you have discovered or you have observed and discovered in people on a spiritual path?
That we're not lovable. I think it's
That's
the
it.
thought that
Yeah.
we're not lovable, that we're not worthy, the worthiness of the own self, the putting
Mm.
ourselves
The
down. I
worthiness
think
of the
this
own
is the
self.
greatest. Yeah, I think this is the greatest challenge. I think the ego is just one person's response.
Okay.
Getting egotistical is just a response to that. But at the core is
Mm,
the vulnerability of birth
mm-hmm,
and needing to grow up and needing to learn and being the vulnerability of human life and needing food
mm-hmm.
and needing friends and needing money.
Needing.
I think
That's the key word
the
here.
needing, yeah, the
Mm-hmm.
needing is the reality, is that we need to respect ourselves, we need to love ourselves, we need to feel whole within ourselves and feel ourselves worthy, and that is the biggest our putting ourselves down is the biggest self deception, that we're not that we can get egotistical in how unworthy we are, which
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
ridiculous,
Now,
like
now a follow-up question to this. You have been part of spiritual communities and traditions for decades. What have you seen people get wrong about the spiritual path?
it's a big question. So what do people get wrong
Yeah.
about the spiritual path? I think that it's not for us, that it's something to
Mm,
conquer, that it's an enemy, that it's outside us, that it's not our friend, that it's that we're not on it,
mm-hmm,
that you
mm-hmm.
can leave it. I think all of these ideas, the spiritual path is just is, and anything that we add to it, that it's this guru or that guru, or it needs to look like this, or that it's only on Sundays and it's only on Wednesdays and it's fish on Fridays.
Right.
These are all limitations that we
Performance.
get wrong.
And how do you distinguish genuine growth from spiritual bypassing?
These are great questions. Appreciate them. Well, again, is experience. That the bypass may be what you need. I talk about the 30s, and they come in and they say, I'm in my power. Now I've seen that I'm not a
Mm-hmm.
weakling anymore. You're not going to ride over me anymore. Now I'm strong. Now I've got my freedom. And I laugh to myself, because that's just stage two. The stage two is just as needy as stage one, only you're verbalizing your neediness. The stage of freedom is that when you don't get what you want, and it's okay. That's freedom. Getting what you want is not freedom. And so on. But the idea here is that we have to come to
From
to the
growth from
place
spiritual bypassing.
that,
Yeah.
that we have to come to the growth versus spiritual bypass, that the growth comes from that it's okay that the word wasn't working. Here I am writing my
Mm-hmm.
second
Mm-hmm.
book and word not working. The program word not
Yeah.
working is a little bit of an inconvenience, but it's okay, that it's just
Correct.
divine Leela. Leela is God's play. It's just, for whatever
Mm-hmm.
reason, I'm having trouble with it right now, and it's okay. But it's
Mm-hmm.
something that I need to put energy into to figure out solutions. But I don't. But it doesn't take away my peace, and it's just something that I can laugh at while it's going on, and that's the freedom.
So
And in that freedom
yeah.
is I don't, maybe that's spiritual bypass, but the fact is that if it is, then I'm just going to get bigger tests.
Yeah,
you know, uh,
to me, Indra, growth makes you more functional, more relational, more grounded, and bypassing makes you harder to reach, less accountable, more defended. The evidence in is in how you live, not how you talk. So, Indra, if everything is connected, which is, how should that
not if.
change the way we relate to conflict and relationships?
It would be wonderful if the realizing that everything connected changes the way that we relate to conflict and relationship. But the thing is that we just should want to change our connection to relationship and conflict, and not be in conflict on conflict and relationship. That we should that it's wonderful to be in a space of not caring whether people come or people don't come is the same anymore. And so that is the freedom. And it's beyond bypassing, it's beyond getting our way, it's beyond clarity, it's beyond strategy, it's beyond intellectual, it's beyond right or wrong. It's just isn't a space of neutrality where everything is perfect as it is. And there's no and one which you haven't brought up, but let me give you is I completely gave up why. It doesn't matter why to me anymore. That I don't have the need to know why on anything. And getting to that place is a tremendous freedom because it doesn't really matter. I mean, if I know why, it's okay, but not needing to know why and just accepting things as they are without the whys is a tremendous amount of freedom. And it brings you to the moment, and the moment is complete, moment to moment, this moment to this moment to this moment to this moment, no past, no future, just this moment. And I don't get story again going back to Word. I don't get I'm bad and my computer's bad and the world is bad and Microsoft is bad. It isn't working, and I need to figure out a solution, and it's frustrating. That's end of story. There's no larger story, and I don't need to know why. If I'm being tested, I'm being tested. It's okay. I don't really care.
I'm gonna add something more to that, and on how we can relate to each other, since we're all connected. Harm to another is harm to the web, which is harm to yourself. It is not morality. It is mechanics. You cannot extract yourself from what you damage. This is something I'm gonna leave the viewers to it, to ponder on it, to reflect on it. Now I'm gonna ask you something. If someone is at a turning point in their life right now, unsure of what to do next, what is the most important thing they need to see clearly?
God's love. That just take a deep breath, just to feel peace in the moment. Get bigger than the situation. Get bigger than the reality.
See the pattern.
See the pattern.
Of the pattern.
Watch birds, play with your dog, eat a carrot, whatever it is that bring you back into some objectivity about we can make our things really, really, really huge. We make our things really huge, and that's okay that we do. But the opportunity here, the invitation here, is to go beyond, and it takes a tremendous amount of continual effort. It's I like to say it's simple, but it's not easy, and it just requires the effort of being in the moment, each and every moment, to observe where you're actually at and what you're actually feeling and what's actually going on, and to be and to learn to be objective about yourself and your own nature, and accept the love that Spirit has for us. And that doesn't mean that we always get our way, and that's okay.
Right. Yeah. Indra, this has been a conversation that goes beneath the surface, beneath personality, beneath knowledge, into the structure itself. To everyone listening, I want to leave you with something Indra said. That true freedom isn't about changing who you are. It's about seeing clearly who you are. The patterns, the blind spots, the mechanical nature of the personality. When you see it completely, without resistance, it loses its grip. The seeing itself is the freedom. You can find Indra's award-winning book, Indra's Net, A Seeker's Guide to the Human Experience, and learn more about his readings, including the full life reading, the Wheel of Totality, and the Navamsha chart at the description box below as well. It is IndraRinzler.com. His work synthesizes Vedic astrology, the Enneagram, and decades of lived spiritual practice into a system that reveals not just who you are, but where you are blind. If this conversation brought something up for you, if you are recognizing patterns you have been running unconsciously, or if you are ready to see what you have not been seeing, you can learn more about private coaching and mentorship at the link in the show notes below with the Grey Ethereus Academy and the Grey Ethereus private coaching and mentorship. If this conversation simply left you with the question, what am I not seeing? Then sit with that. Don't rush to fill it. Let the question do its work. And that's okay. This is a Light and Shadow podcast. Thank you for listening with an open mind and a discerning heart. Until next time.